All right, I think we'll begin. Firstly, thank you everybody for joining us in today's presentation. Part two of your marketing may not be working. You may not even know it. Part two looks at marketing trends for 2023, and we'll also talk about how to use them to grow your company as you move through the year. So welcome everybody. We started off last presentation by identifying that leadership was a prime function of what leads to business growth. How do leaders behave? And do they in fact have a growth perspective, or in fact have a status quo perspective? Many leaders don't want to change things. Many leaders want to leave things as they are. And when you have that attitude, it's nothing wrong with it, but it limits your ability to take in new knowledge and new information. And that additional knowledge and information is a critical driving force behind companies growing or not growing. And so this difference in mindset and difference in attitude is a key component of why businesses grow, or businesses in fact die or go into decline. And so from a marketing point of view, we tend not to talk to those status quo leaders who are not looking to change anything up or not looking to improve anything. And we tend to look specifically at leaders that have an open mindset and want to gain additional learning and additional information in order to springboard their organization forward into a growth mode. So those kinds of leaders are always asking this question: am I truly taking advantage of all my potential growth opportunities? And that includes opportunities that come out of a marketing perspective. And when we talk about a marketing perspective, I want to remind everybody, which is what I did at the previous presentation, is that marketing is not about digital marketing. Digital marketing is a part of marketing, but it is not equivalent to marketing. And so when I talk about all my potential growth opportunities, including marketing, I'm talking about things including digital marketing space, plus the other areas of business that marketing touches. And it's that difference in attitude from a digital versus a more holistic approach that opens up the opportunities for organizations to grow more aggressively. And so as a reminder, for those that didn't attend the previous presentation, marketing in today's perspective is this: that it really represents half of one of the P's of marketing, and that is the digital communication space. And if you have a look at this picture, you'll see that there's product, price, place, and promotion, and the digital space takes up half of 1/4, which is about 12.5%, 15% of what marketing really touches in business. And opportunities for growth come in all of these areas. So if one is just looking at digital communications and is expecting growth by just looking at digital communications, chances are you will be disappointed. But if you open your mind to a broader, more holistic perspective of marketing, you will have a much greater opportunity, because there are much greater items to consider when looking at growth in an organization. And so if you're digitally oriented only, you're missing out on these three areas plus half of the promotional area. And the opening of the minds is the thing that'll get you over that hump and into looking at a much wider range of opportunities. And one of the things we tend to do all the time is watch the trends. And if you see this kind of trend, which shows that social media the time that adults are spending on social media is declining year over year over year, you'll see that if you're stuck in a digital mindset, and social media is one of the primary areas you're looking at a decline in the effort or in the success that you're probably going to have, which will stunt your growth. And so having that open mindset, having the knowledge and information given to you or shared with you or acquired by you, all that additional information will be very valuable to you for your decision making. And so this really represents the opportunities at a high level where you go looking for growth. And it includes that section of the promotional piece that is digitally oriented. And so the challenge that I'm putting out to leadership today is, ready to open your minds to new knowledge and new information. And we know that that's important because decisions are only made based on what you know today. And you will make decisions only on that basis. And the challenge is that better decisions can happen as you acquire more knowledge and more information. And so the open-mindedness attitude that I'm talking about is really critical to having that open-mindedness so that you can actually accomplish that growth mentality. Where do you start? You start by parking the ego and accepting that you don't know everything, and no one does. So it shouldn't be particularly difficult to do that. And then to ask more questions or enter into a process that more questions are either asked by people internally inside your organization or people outside the organization that can ask questions of you. And the answering of those questions will help to mold the information that you're now gathering. Okay, the more questions you ask, the more answers you get, the more your knowledge base grows, and the better the decisions that you're going to be able to make. And so allowing real marketing rather than digital marketing to be optimized is really the challenge. And part of what's becoming so difficult for people to move away from digital marketing is that they look around them and they see that everyone's doing it and they follow. And it's that follower mentality that, if it's done blindly, is really very, very dangerous from an organization perspective. And that's a lot of what leads organizations to stagnate, decline, and sometimes actually go out of business, whether it's a company or an industry. And so my challenge is encourage that questioning within the organization, encourage people to ask lots of questions, and then build the foundation of knowledge that you have in the organization that will allow decision-making to improve. Learning will be increased, creativity will flourish, and it's really important that you allow that creativity to happen not only from inside the organization but from outside the organization. Open your mind to having people that don't know your business but have some knowledge and expertise in other industries to be able to ask questions of you, and that open-mindedness is the key for all of that to actually take place. Once you ask those questions, then you've got to mold your strategy. Okay, marketing without strategy is, as Sun Tzu says, the noise before defeat. And so it's your attitude with what you do with that knowledge that becomes crucial. And it's the development of a strategy first before the tactics that is absolutely crucial. Because if you don't have context and the strategic process, which I show here in sections 1 to 5, that's the strategic process that's going to help you deal with the questions and help you come up with the answers. And then once you do that, out of that will fall the tactics. And so making sure you have a strategic mindset as opposed to a tactical mindset. And that leads to leadership rather than a follower mentality is absolutely crucial to finding those opportunities for growth. And a marketing strategist will help walk you through this process so that you can ask all the questions you need in order to identify as many opportunities as you can in your organization. And so when we look at making those tactical decisions, many organizations or many leaders end up sitting on the fences. And as you can see, it becomes a pretty painful kind of situation if you're not really sure about whether you should go across the fence or stay on your side, because sometimes you get caught in between. And by asking the questions, it's going to help you make the decision. Do I go or do I stay? How far do I go and how far do I stay? And so it also is influenced by the people you're speaking to outside of your organization, as well as people inside the organization. From a marketing point of view, if you are digitally focused only, chances are you're only speaking to people that have been marketing trained in the last 10 or 15 years. And it's those people that have a much more holistic perspective of marketing and have lived those traditional years that can provide you a much broader range of marketing options, or at least questions that will lead to marketing options. And so developing context for your decision making is really important in an environment that's getting more and more and more complex as the digital environment expands and actually explodes. This is just a chart, and you're not meant to read it, but it'll give you a perspective of what the marketing technology landscape looks like. And so when you start looking at marketing from a technology point of view, this alone is quite daunting. How do you incorporate tactics from this landscape and make it part of your overall marketing strategy unless you're asking contextual questions to make that happen? And so trying to handle marketing purely internally, if you don't have people experienced at this, makes it quite challenging. And why having external advisors who have experience at this, but they also have experience at traditional marketing, being able to contextualize everything together is a really important way for you to gain that additional knowledge to make those better decisions. And so I'm going to dive quickly into the 2023 marketing trends. And I've broken them out into a few different categories. The first category is back to normal. You know, what things were in place before this whole COVID situation, and what is now coming back that we're having to deal with. And the first one, and this is a really good example of why marketing is not just about digital, because one thing that is happening is the return to in-person events. A lot of people are saying, I'm not going to stay home. I'm not going to get stuck behind my computer and behind a video screen all the time. I'm going to go and I'm going to meet people. Humans are social animals and they want to interact with each other. And so there's a big movement now to going back to those in-person events. And a colleague of mine actually was telling me about an experience that she was having and how different it is now to the networking that she was doing before COVID. And she said so many people came to a couple of events that she attended, and they were almost frozen in time, that they didn't know what to do. They had lost the skills of going out and interacting with people. And she said it was actually quite amazing that people would come, they'd stand around, they wouldn't mix, They wouldn't talk to other people. And so it was, she was quite amused with this and made the effort to introduce herself to people and interact with people. And I think it's just a function of time until people get back to learning that skill again and moving on. But here's a perfect example that things are not only in the digital world from a marketing point of view, in terms of connecting with people and doing network. This is a perfect start to what is a new trend, but in actual fact, it's an old trend. Second thing is, once again, it deals with if you are not focused on providing great customer experiences and measuring and tracking that and making sure your people are delivering that, that is going to be the single biggest risk to any business. And it doesn't matter what kind of technology you put in place. If you, as an organization, are not committed to maximizing customer experience, that's where the door is left open for a smart competitor to come in, take your space, and perhaps limit your ability to grow the business. So, bad customer experience, biggest threat to any business, and that's something that we just have to accept. Influencer marketing has been coming along quite strongly in the last few years, and I think it's going to continue its growth. I've put a beware signal behind that because I think when a trend becomes too endemic, it often sort of takes over in a way that you end up having negative experiences if you don't manage it very, very well. And my advice here is be very careful with who you engage with as influencers representing your brand and your business, and make sure that you manage that process very well and you measure that process as well as you can. But it is one of those things that's hot to trot. It is going to expand quite dramatically and does need to be well managed. Another trend, video marketing has really taken on quite a big role as far as marketing communications is concerned. And the one thing that I think is going to change a little bit is that because of its proliferation, we are going to see content becoming tighter and shorter, and messaging is going to be really crucial, because if you cannot get your message across in a relevant and impactful way, and your video content is too long, you will lose the audience. So I think video marketing or video content becoming short, sharp, and very clear is going to be a trend in order to keep video marketing still relevant. Social media. Social media will continue to evolve, more so as a customer service tool than a communications tool between people. I think the big danger there is assuming that because you're using it as a customer service tool, that you don't need to pay the same kind of attention that you needed to in the past. Bad customer service will lead to bad customer experience. And so just because you've got the technology doesn't mean it's being handled well, it's being utilized well, and that the customer experience is excellent. So making sure that you're tracking that very, very well is going to be a continuing trend and going back to normal going forward. Mobile optimization, more and more, particularly the younger generation, are interacting with the internet purely through mobile, and making sure that the marketing you're doing is optimized for mobile. For mobile is going to be increasingly important as time goes by. Social responsibility. I think the one thing COVID has taught us a little bit is the importance of people and interaction and dealing with social issues. And more and more companies, I think, are taking this very, very seriously. And I'll talk a little bit further in one of my other trends about social responsibility and where it's going. One of the things that one needs to be careful about in a moment. What's back to basics? A trend that's back to basics. If you're a leader and you're a winner, you will see marketing beyond digital communications. I think the more focused you are on purely looking at digital marketing as your only marketing focus, I think that's where the challenges are going to become, and leaders and winners will come out of having more of a holistic view of marketing and making sure that the digital communications is only a part of what is needed in the organization and is not the only thing that is needed. As Seth Godin says, you need to have sufficient resources to do more than make a commotion on social media, which is what ends up happening with many people when they're digitally focused only. They get the noise, they start measuring the wrong metrics in their business, and then they start saying, well, marketing doesn't work for me. It's really important that they have digital marketing as part of the full marketing mix and that it's contextualized properly. As a result of all of that, inbound marketing will remain a best practice. Instead of push marketing, messages being pushed out, we're talking about content there that people can access, that they can relate to, that is relevant to them, that'll lead to incoming inquiries. And so inbound marketing and making sure that the focus is on that inbound activity rather than the external push attitude from a pure sales perspective, inbound marketing is going to be the thing that should be aimed for. Aligning marketing and sales teams. Any organization that doesn't have good alignment between marketing and sales teams is missing out on really important opportunities. These are two very important teams that are really at the forefront of communication with clients or prospective clients. And you need to be able to optimize the performance of those, of both of those teams. And they need to be optimized in a way that pushes the organization in the same direction. So having marketing and sales totally separated and managed totally separately, you're losing out on the opportunity for that integration. Followers will lose. When you have too many people doing the same thing, which is what's happening with digital communications, everyone is rushing to digital communications because everyone is doing it. And so those waters are getting so busy that the return on investment tends to decline the more players you have in that space. And so for any organization that's doing that purely as their only marketing strategy are faced with increasing competition in that space, and as such will find it very difficult to catch customers or prospects as the competitiveness increases. So it's really all about leadership, open-mindedness. If you're a follower, you're probably going to lose the battle. So instead of trying to compete on the same level as your competition, you need to find ways to outflank them. And that's where the other areas of marketing come in, is finding ways. Doesn't mean you have to give up what you're doing with your digital marketing, but you need to be able to find other ways, and you can use digital marketing to help to communicate those strategies to your prospects. And if you are communicating that kind of differentiation, you'll be able to break through. But if you're simply communicating everything the same as your competitors, it's going to be really hard to break through if you have a follower mentality. So what are the new trends? There are a handful of really important new trends that are coming to the marketplace. One of the more interesting ones that I came across was cookies in browsers. And Chrome was the search engine that this was associated with. And there seems to be a trend for third-party cookies that track visits to website, improve user experience, and collect important data. That the utilization of those cookies may be getting removed by a browser like Chrome. Chrome is a Google property, and so they are one of the most important ones. So if this happens, if cookies, the use of cookies is going to come to an end, it makes things less data-driven, because that's where marketers and companies and organizations get a lot of their data and make decisions on. That's why marketing has become, over time, a little bit more of a science because of the availability of data and less of an art. And so if the cookies and the availability of data that come from the cookie tracking goes away, it's going to make it much more difficult for marketers to make decisions based on data that's no longer coming their way. So that's one to watch very carefully and see whether that actually comes to pass, or whether it's just a little bit of noise in the marketplace. But that's one really worthwhile tracking as a future trend. We spoke about social responsibility, and you know, it really is connected with inclusive marketing. Championing diversity, equity, and inclusion makes you much more culturally relevant as an organization. And there is a big push in today's world on inclusive marketing. It helps you connect with wider audiences on a more relevant level, and is something that really is indicative of what you're doing in your organization. Big challenge is that if you dabble at doing this and see it just as a marketing strategy, chances are it will lose its energy sooner rather than later. And that the only way this is really going to work is if it becomes part of your organization's DNA and part of the culture of the organization. And so I've already started hearing about certain organizations, fairly large organizations, starting to dial back the whole inclusivity kind of approach because it's not necessarily giving them a direct payback. Whether that continues or whether that gets adapted and reinforced going forward, that's going to be interesting. But I do think that this whole inclusive marketing piece is something that will be with us for quite a while, and could become something much more permanent in organizations as we move forward. And then we get to the latest trend, which is artificial intelligence, and the fact that through ChatGPT, AI is moving mainstream. And I'll put the link there if anyone doesn't have it already. It's very, very worthwhile. And asking the computer any question you want, and the artificial intelligence will give you a very relevant answer. The interesting thing about ChatGPT is that it's really an open source chatbot that generates natural sounding conversation. So in many instances, it could become your copywriter if you decide to do it like that. And I think that it will open itself to being utilized to some extent like that. And this really is ChatGPT's answer to my question about what it is. And it says it will use natural language processing and artificial intelligence to create personalized conversations with customers, ultimately increasing sales and customer loyalty. I think that's the intention. Whether it will or not is open to interpretation. But I do think what what will happen is that people will start using it as a type of copywriter for themselves, because that's really what it does. It brings forth well-written content that one can use. And I think from a marketing point of view, it may lead to more marketing communications being done through artificial intelligence that actually using people. So it'll be an interesting one to watch. This has come on strong in the last few months, and is probably the hottest new trend that is worthwhile watching going forward. When we dial all of these trends back and look, while we're looking at it, we're looking at what can be used to increase growth opportunities in organizations. And for many people, sales revenue is the only thing that they focus on in terms of growing the business. How do we get more sales? Well, the interesting thing is that just getting more sales is not the only way for you to grow your business. There are many ways to do that through product development, market development, diversification, market penetration, profits or profitability. If you didn't increase sales, or even if you reduced sales, but you made more profit or more margin, that's a goal to have going forward. That it improves the performance of the organization, and that could be a desirable goal of achieving growth for any organization. But quite honestly, anything new, products, services, markets, industry, sales channels, all of those things, they may not lead to improved sales revenue, but they may lead to improved market share, and so on and so forth. So there are multiple ways to look at what represents growth and what do you want as an individual leader in an organization that's going to make you happy, and you set those goals and you set that tone going forward. Whether it's a new business, whether it's an old business, or whether it's a changing business, doesn't really matter. Growth opportunities are there all the time, and you've just got to be looking for them in order to improve the performance of your organization. And at the end of the day, you can only do this by looking at your business strategically and not tactically. So doing that investigative research, background questioning kind of work, that's where you will find the opportunities for growth, and then be able to use the digital marketing as a means to communicate that to your market. And so having that totality of approach, that holistic approach, is something that will help you achieve those growth goals and not just sales revenue. So ask yourself these questions. Am I launching a new product or service anytime soon, or should I? I have a new idea. What do I do with it? My business is flat or slowing down. How do I correct that situation? My competitors are growing faster than me. Why? What am I doing to counter that? What am I doing to outflank them so that I can get back ahead of them? I don't have enough new business leads. Why is that happening? These are all clues that when you ask yourself these questions, that lead to, well, I need to do something about it if I want to sustain my business going forward. I need more sales. I'm not meeting my overall financial goals. I don't know if my marketing is working. Yeah, particularly if it's just digital marketing alone. I'm spending too much money on marketing, or I need to be doing social media, or I need a new website. That's sort of jumping to a tactic because you've heard other people say those things. The question around that is why? Contextualize it first before you jump into doing something like that. And so from a marketing point of view, and thinking about those 4 P's of marketing, the choice is humongous. And working through those options becomes quite daunting when you have your business to run, but you also have all of these opportunities to consider. And, considering these opportunities lead to you managing the business in a better way that leads you to your growth goals. So they are really important things to be able to do. But you may not be able to do it on your own. You may need help, and we can certainly help you do that. We build a path to better business performance, and it includes but is not limited to digital marketing. We take a much more holistic approach to marketing. We help identify growth opportunities for the business that touches all areas of the business, not just what one perceives as communication elements or digital communication. We look at things like logistics and sales and customer service and operations, all those areas of the business. There may be tweaks that can be done in order to improve the performance of the business. And that's part of our process of questioning an organization and questioning their processes and their operations in order to make them perform better. And some of those things that we look at include things like different industries and different market segments that one can go into. I was chatting to a client recently, and they said that a friend of his had actually decided, he was a Canadian business, and decided he wanted to expand to Florida. And I said, why Florida? He said, well, he just thought he needed to do that. And the interesting thing was he hired a marketing strategist who was able to show him that he only had 8% of the market he was currently pursuing at this moment in time, and that there was at least double that was available to him if he built a strategy to go out and get it in the markets that he was already penetrating. He just needed to do a better job. And that got him walking away from expansion into Florida and getting him much more focused on penetrating his existing markets, which is an easier way to go. So what kinds of things do? We do strategy and planning, and we do branding, and we do connecting sales and marketing, and really implementing and conducting what happens from a marketing point of view inside an organization. Very much the operational side of marketing. So not only do we do the thinking, the strategizing, the planning, but we also do the project management and the control and tracking and reporting of successes. So how do we do this? Well, we have a perspective from the outside looking into an organization, whereas leaders inside organizations look from the organization and look out. And so our perspective is very different and gives us a different understanding of what the business looks like. And through those eyes, we're able to see what people inside the business cannot see. And so that's the first thing we do. We have a process that enables us to do this. So we see what others cannot see. We identify business opportunities that organization can take advantage of. We build a strategy and a plan around it, and then we implement. And we project manage that implementation, and we track and we report on the success of all of that. And we do that through our marketing audit process. And I invite anyone who's interested to reach out and be able to talk to me about, having an understanding what this process looks like to see whether it's relevant for them or not. Our service options include consulting, coaching, mentoring, project management, and acting as a fractional chief marketing officer. Which is a way of saying we'll use someone who's a specialist in marketing to be able to corral all those areas of marketing, both traditional and digital, together, and then help us manage it from the inside. And so thank you very much for the opportunity to share this information with me. I encourage anyone to pose some questions, and I've got Gary on the line, and Gary, hopefully, if you do see some of those questions, maybe you can ask them. And if I have the answers for you, I will certainly provide them. We are also recording this, so if people want to get a recording, we will certainly provide a recording of this presentation. So let's open it up to Q&A. Please use your chat capabilities or open up your mics. I'm not sure if we can use both those options, but either of those options should be able to work. So I have a couple of questions here from Emma. I think there's also COVID anxiety carried over to in-person events, where events are overpopulated. This awareness and anxiety wasn't there before COVID. Yeah, I absolutely agree with you there, Emma. The interesting thing is if people are going to an in-person event, uh, they're obviously able to get over the COVID anxiety. So, but yeah, it's absolutely correct. It's going to take us a little while to get used to dealing with people on a face-to-face basis. You know, from Gary, feels like there's a new AI tool plugin coming out every day. I I think that's one of the challenges with digital is it's so fast moving that by the time you get to learn to use one, there's something new that that comes forth. I think you just have a look at how many social media channels have come and not gone, but they've been superseded by other things. And see what's happening with TikTok these days. TikTok is the latest, hottest new communication tool out there. I bet by this time next year we're not talking TikTok, we're talking about something else. So it really is the speed of things, and that's what makes digital so hard to manage if that's your only focus from a marketing perspective, is that unless you're staying at the front edge, which is really hard to do, front edge of that technology, before long you're going to be playing catch up, and it's really hard to do. And I think we find people getting onto a treadmill with that kind of mentality, and that's why the other areas of marketing are probably much more stable to find ways to differentiate the organization and make sure that you have a good mix of those tools and tactics, and you're not just focused in one area. I'm a great supporter of the digital world and digital marketing, but only when it has context. To just do the digital stuff blindly, I think is a challenge that will be hard to maintain your relevance because of the speed of change that's actually happening. From Eurus, AI tools are coming faster than we may think. I agree, Eurus. Although no replacement for overall strategy, they will impact many services, including copywriting. Absolutely, absolutely. And none of these tools are strategic in nature, and so none of them will replace strategy. Strategy is the thinking. All of these tools are simply tactics for communication, and when you talk to someone, you have to have a message, a relevant message. And if you're just talking without a relevant message, it's just noise to people. And so understanding the strategy behind the plan, behind the messaging is really, really crucial. So, just rushing out and doing the latest digital stuff is really, in my opinion, just noise if it doesn't have any real context. Emma, again, I'm a sole practitioner and an immigrant to Canada, started her own practice without a client. Where does a small firm like mine start with marketing? Wow, that's such a good question. And it starts with strategy, in my opinion, because if you don't have, as I said, context for the tactics, you don't have anything. You can do things more simplistically from a strategy point of view, but you really need to understand who you are as an organization and what is the message that you want to give your customers or prospective customers that make them attractive to you. If you can't work that message out, What are you communicating to them? So it's really very, very crucial that you do the strategy and the planning first before you do the implementation and you start communicating. Just saying I'm in business, well, everyone else is in business, so that's not really differentiating you. So you need to say I'm in business and this is why you need to do business with me and this is why it's more relevant than anyone else. And so all of that work, that's thinking, questioning, uh, business intelligence kind of work, that's where most important decisions are made. And that really is always the start. And you can try and do it on your own, you can try and do it with other people that are around you, you can do it with a professional. I would strongly recommend that that's where you start and try and make sure that you are relevant to your potential customers. Um, Yeah, there's a budget question. Yeah, that's a hard one. Um, it's a hard one to answer. It's sort of a depends answer, uh, and that's why goal setting is so important. Um, one should have at very least a rudimentary budget for your business when you start the business, and there should be a marketing line item on that budget. And so, depending on what your projections are for revenue, um, you would tend to have a percentage of marketing in startup mode, probably somewhere between 5 to 10% of your revenue line if you're in startup mode. It also depends if you're more business to business or business to consumer kind of organization. And so a more business to consumer organization would tend to be at the higher level in that, or business to business you can afford to be a little lower than that. When you get into more of a maintenance kind of mode, anywhere from 3 to 5% is probably a good percentage. But once again, it depends if you're more retail or business to consumer versus business to business kind of business. So I think looks like I've covered off most of the comments. Thank you very much for those that have participated today, and I look forward to speaking to you all at some time in the future. And certainly do invite you to reach out to me if you have any questions. So if we don't have any more questions, then let's wish you all a very good Wednesday, and we'll see you sometime in the future. Thank you very much. Bye-bye. You're muted, Gary. Yeah, thank you. Yeah, that's it. Yeah, at least we got quite a few questions, which was nice to see as well. Okay. Yeah. Well, when you're ready to do that, so you'll send the video out automatically, or you want me to upload it back to YouTube and send you back the link? How do you want to play that? Okay. Yeah. Sure. Sure. Okay. Alrighty.